So one thing that I have heard about the turn to Venezuela is one unique feature of Venezuela is one, its proximity to the U.S. Two, has the largest proven oil reserves in the whole world, and yet despite that fact, it is one of the bottom actual producers of oil in the world. So in other words, there's a shitload of untapped potential for production there, that if it spiked its production, it would really drop global oil prices, which would be a really destabilizing effect, right?
It would be especially bad for the United States, which has become a major oil exporter in the past decade.
Right. But if the U.S. and Israel were planning on intervention in Iran, destabilizing the Iranian regime, then that would have a massive impact on massively decreasing oil supply coming out of Iran. And if the U.S. had control of Venezuela at the same time that was happening, and could counteract it by increasing in equal measure the oil production rate out of Venezuela, that would help to keep oil prices stable globally. So that's one speculation that I've heard. And again, toward the question of humiliating the United States, watching the U.S. just bungle all of that at every step would be hilarious and wonderful.
Yeah. I think another humiliating thing that the United States could do is lose a proxy war to Russia in Ukraine. And then another really humiliating thing that could happen is it could lose a trade war to China. I mean, honestly, it's just like every single one of Trump's foreign policy decisions is massively humiliating. He could try to take out the Iranian nuclear program and topple the Iranian regime with coordinated strikes with Israel, only to get Israel fucking plastered by Iranian missiles and beg for peace. That could be one really humiliating thing that happens. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing about about Trump's foreign policy that isn't just the most humiliating shit possible. And other things that are humiliating that aren't foreign policy related, which should be more humiliating than they actually are, is just watching this country spiral into an economic depression in spite of all the promises that Trump made about restoring the economy and bringing down inflation and stabilizing food prices. And that should be humiliating.
Yeah, it's like I was saying right before we hit record, like I am sympathetic to some degree with the patriotic socialists. I at least understand the motivation behind it. But like, it's really hard to say that out loud because I'm talking about this country right now. The version of the country I have in my own head is an imaginary one compared to the one that actually exists. Because the truth is, the most embarrassing thing that could happen in the United States is everything that has been happening in the United States for a long time now.
Yeah, for the past 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was responding to what both of you just said. I've been reflecting on, remember when Chris Coutron was really going all in on the sort of 4D chess that the Trump administration was playing with regard to tariffs and with regard to he was like I'm so glad to be proven right. I've just been wondering how he's been. I haven't been really listening to him for a long time, but that's come into my mind a couple times of late.
Proven right, and like how?
Oh yeah, there's no metric that you could point to as far as tariffs are concerned. And, I mean, there's one metric that you could point to, like, are there still tariffs against the people who Trump says were, like, sucking trade away from us? No, those ones aren't there anymore. There are tariffs against people who can't do anything about it, but anyone who has any kind of power to resist it, those tariffs have all been rescinded.
Yeah, it's really funny with
masterful.
Yeah,
I was about to say, like, in the last couple of years, in referencing the tariffs, and the a few years ago we had this we talked about tariffs constantly, but that was like exactly 1 year ago, actually, not a few years ago. Hell,
it wasn't even a year ago, dude. It was like 6 months ago. Yeah.
This has been a hell of a year. It's been many years.
It's been God, I'm so tired from this year.
Another humiliating thing that could happen is Russia could outproduce militarily all of NATO combined. Like the productive capacity of the United States could falter in the face of Russia. You know, the gas station with nukes.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, we could probably just do a whole episode of just making little pithy quips about how to answer this question.
The United States identifying things that are actually happening. Yeah.
Yeah. The United States could lose a military engagement to a non-state actor on the south of the Arabian Peninsula and accidentally drop two like multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollar aircrafts into the fucking ocean.
Also, in sort of narrativizing all this, it would be the most humiliating thing if this whole spheres of influence idea that the Trump administration seems to be going full steam ahead on, it gets outflanked by China and Russia.
Okay, here's
globally.
For me personally, what would be the most embarrassing thing to happen to the United States would be in the next few years would be if the Democratic Party gets to pick its own nominee and that nominee loses to whoever Trump picks.
Yeah.
Which is fairly likely, just considering the last 3 elections, that's just likely to be the case.
Oh, man.
Well, you guys want to move on to the next question?
Yeah.
Or we got 20 minutes on that first question. To be fair, though, there's lots of humiliating shit. But do we want to pick the most humiliating thing that could happen? Not that has happened, that could happen. Right. That's the question. You know, I think the most humiliating thing that could happen would be complete military collapse.
Yeah.
In Ukraine. I think that would be the most embarrassing thing that could happen for the United States. Because regardless of what happens, the American imperial project is damaged, and NATO will continue to further fracture. That's the most embarrassing and most humiliating thing that could happen. Would be the utter collapse of Ukraine in the face of the Russian pressure.
What do you think about in Israel? Like if Palestine were to actually assert itself as a coherent state or sub-state agent, I guess, and force Israel into some sort of onto its back foot rather than Palestine being nothing but nothing but the subject or the victim of Israel's oppression, domination, and genocide. Palestine actually gaining a foot and being able to assert itself against Israel, and the U.S. not being able or willing to do anything about it. I imagine that would be a fairly humiliating posture for the U.S.
Yeah.
I think that
for sure.
That kind of just falls under everything that is happening, everything that's
Imperial
going
decline.
to happen.
I think that would make a lot of sense if that were to follow the military, the thing Chris mentioned, the military defeat.
Dude, you know what's embarrassing was the military parade that happened in D.C. a couple months ago.
That was embarrassing.
That was pretty fucking embarrassing.
But we're talking about this, and they just the Pentagon, the military budget is now $1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to get ahead of all this. But I think if in that context, everything you just said were to happen, that would be that's the most humiliating thing. If you invest $1 trillion and then lose to Russia, lose to China.
Right. That's what I mean. That's the only thing that the U.S. is competent at anymore. The only thing that it's even minimally capable of anymore is military dominance as a global hegemon, and so that is it. I mean, it's not a competent state actor. on
that's
any other regard. And so, like, if that's going to be its point of humiliation, is where it's most dominant, is where it, you know, trips over its own dick, then, you know, that's going to be the most humiliating thing.
So the United States is militarily dominant against third world countries where they've paid off like large portions of the military and government to stand down in order to kidnap the president, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, they weren't very dominant against the Houthis, you know? And I think that we are in a terminal decline in the military as well. One of the things that we still have that does, you know, if we wanted to whip ass that we can, is special operations. We can still do special operations. That doesn't win wars, though.
No.
Special operations, you require a massive it requires a massive apparatus of boots on the ground, infrastructure, and production that I don't think the United States is capable of anymore. Not as it stands right now. Not unless we had some sort of like wholesale like shifting of the economy and society into like onto a war footing. Like,
sure, but I mean the U.S. has spends, you know, more on its military than the next 14, 15 nations combined, half of which are allied with the U.S.
Oh, we can be incredibly destructive still. Yeah.
And we're
you're right
continuing to ramp up spending, and there is no one even remotely close, including military allies like NATO, that has military bases around the entire world, everywhere around the world. The entire world trades in the US dollar, and the English language is the lingua franca, not because they're just superior and better than everybody, but and everybody does it by, you know, free choice or whatever, but because of the United States' military hegemony. Now,
at least for now,
exactly, it's disintegrating, it's collapsing, and that's where the U.S. is going to be capable of being the most humiliated. It's the lone last thing that it has dominance in. It just fucks up. Then, you know, that's going to be the point of its greatest humiliation. That's what I mean is,
how do you think
it is declining?
How do you think our competitors would be wielding our largesse, our military might, in contrary to the way that we are? Like, if the resources were to be swapped, I feel like it would be very different. Just looking at how China is proceeding militarily and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, like, China is approaching parity with the United States militarily, and in some aspects is like drone warfare. For one, China probably outpaces the United States by like leaps and bounds, and hypersonic missiles outpaces the United States. We're probably close to parity when it comes to everything else, except for with the Navy, which I think that they're attempting to reach parity. And one of the problems with the United States is, while we do spend a lot of money, we don't actually get that much stuff from it. Like, we get a ton of stuff, don't get me wrong. But for the amount of money that we spend, because of the entrenched nature of the bureaucracy, the procurement bureaucracy, private and in the Pentagon, we end up spending a lot of money for very little. Like, we produce something like, we have the ability to produce something like 600 Patriot missiles a year. And Russia would have, like, if we gave all of them to Ukraine, Russia would have forced Ukraine to use all of them up within like a few days of their missile and drone attacks. So it's like, they're spending a shitload of money creating Patriot missiles, but they're not getting very much for it. Right. So that's one way. There's like this terminal rot that's at the heart of the system of the empire, and I guess Chapo has like called it like an imperial softening, or like everything about how badass we've been forever is like is just laurels that we're resting on right now. And that everything is falling apart around us. It's like the the very end of the
Yes.
Roman Empire, still fielding like the biggest militaries in the world, which are
Right.
incapable of like actually accomplishing their goals. You know.
Yeah, expansion is terminated, and the reach that currently exists is only there because of the infrastructure, both administrative and material, that was previously built that enables it to just sort of like remain in place, and it's going to slowly start. I think in the next probably decade, we're probably going to start seeing some U.S. military bases abandoned around the world.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going to start to happen.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, whenever Iran did those missile strikes against the United States, is the base in was it Qatar where the
Yeah,
I think it was, yeah.
or the UAE? They broadcasted they were going to strike the base. Then we withdrew out of that base. We let them hit it, and then we were like, "Oh, thank you for being so judicious with your strikes." Can you imagine George Bush saying, "Thank you for being judicious with your strikes"? It was because our ally was getting fucking plastered, and we knew that we couldn't escalate with Iran and still have Israel maintain any semblance of strength in the Middle East. So anyway, yeah, I mean, the thing about dying animals is that they can be incredibly vicious and dangerous, and that's one thing that I don't want to make light of. Our empire is a dying animal, and we can still cause an immense amount of suffering and destruction as we die over the next few decades or so.
It's going to be a slow death, I think.